Poo-poo. Let's set up properly. And hello? How is sound? Should be good. $66, hello? Sound is good, wonderful. Prepared the wipes for the board. Let's move the table closer. Like this. Oh, what a wonderful evening, guys. Today I decided to... Nice, Kiva. Today we're going to dive into the topics related to tantric sex because this is basically the crown of tantric life, the crown of tantric experience that people are typically most familiar with. Of course, people who are not attending the streams, people who are not practicing everything that tantra has to offer to build a foundation for that, will be completely clueless about all of the interesting sides and interesting functions that go into enabling tantric intimacy, tantric sex. And today I want to elaborate on the topic of how such an amazing skill as flexibility of attention works in tantric intimacy. Why it is important. Why do we work on this skill, flexibility of attention, of being able to control our focus, control our attention? Why we need to be doing that, and how it can help to enhance intimacy, and moreover how it can help to greatly improve the experience, the consistency of the relationships with intimacy, how it can help in reversal of sexual trauma, how it can help couples in starting to enjoy intimacy again, how it can freshen up their life, how it can bring more pleasure context in their life through this function, this flexibility of attention. So everyone who is joining, I'm Tantra coach, Tantra therapist. Today's topic is flexibility of attention and intimacy, tantric intimacy. Why? I remember we had a topic on female sexual wellness. How a lot of women encounter such, like 3/4 of women encounter such an unpleasant phenomenon as pain during intercourse in their life. Kiva, by the way, I need to add them. Whoop. Thank you. Whoop. Thank you, Kiva. So, here they are. So we're talking about this problem that women commonly face. The intimacy, imagine a couple gets together. There was this wonderful analogy. A couple gets together, and for example, they have this pleasant ritual. They both like, let's say, white chocolate with hazelnuts. And the years pass by, but white chocolate with hazelnuts keeps giving them the same pleasure as it was in the very beginning. It still becomes their bonding ritual. It still becomes something that reminds them of the beauty of their romantic life in the beginning. The love for the taste of that white chocolate with hazelnuts, it doesn't fade. It was as enjoyable in the beginning as it is enjoyable now, years later. It is associated with as many pleasant emotions nowadays as it was in the beginning. It's a powerful, beautiful anchor that this couple shares as a ritual, as this sweet indulgence. But when we think about intimacy, when we talk about sex, years pass by and a lot of scenarios evolve in such a way that sex just dies, intimacy dies, attraction, appeal of intimacy dies. So people just become co-inhabitants of their apartment. They become co-parents. They become co-watchers of shows. But there is this dead valley between them in the intimate realm. Sex, from the peak pleasure as it used to be, turns into a chore. So the paradox is that with white chocolate with hazelnuts, it's still a big pleasure, it's still an indulgence. With sex, it becomes something that something that is a duty, something that is something that has to be done, perhaps, but if it may not be done, we'll avoid it type of thing. It becomes a punishment for at least one partner. From peak indulgence, from peak pleasure, intimacy turns into hell no. I will avoid it at all cost. It's painful, it's unpleasant, I don't know why I would be doing that. So this is the progression. So why some pleasures stick around, but some pleasures that are actually incredibly, incredibly powerful, they suddenly become a punishment. What's happening there? So with this commonplace paradox, I find a lot of the points that we can sort out using tantric methods. Kiva, thank you. Scravis is promising today. Scravis, before Scravis promised some financial reward. Today, at stake we have properties. Wonderful, wonderful progression. So with tantric tools, we can resolve this issue with treating intimacy as a chore, with treating intimacy as something to avoid, to bring it back to where it belongs, which is a high energy, prolific, beautiful, ultimate, peak pleasure that is a reward in itself. Because unfortunately, also, intimacy became a currency in society. Intimacy becomes a tool for manipulation. Not pleasure, no. Not some pleasant exchange with climax, with beautiful progression, with so much inspiration, with so much fantasy, with so much imagination. Not that. It gets so devalued that it becomes just a tool to salvage marriage, for example, or to keep marriage going. What is marriage in that sense? Something that exists on paper, something for IRS? But it becomes this unfortunate tool, unfortunate nuisance that needs to exist. And or it becomes this power balance lever. I will exercise this hierarchy in intimacy such that I keep some ill system going in which I feel I know my place, in which I propagate the system in which I am the inferior, in which I am the one making a sacrifice. Remember our analogy with bloody bucket, in which I'm just dumping a bunch of myself, parts of myself, this like bloody meaty bucket, where I sacrifice myself to the relationship. And intimacy becomes the tool that propagates this system, that every time shows my place. And this unfortunate fate of intimacy results in, or is associated, let's say, in disconnect with the body, in disconnect with libido, in disconnect with some emotional wholeness, disconnect with playfulness, disconnect with freedom, disconnect with the mere idea of prioritizing pleasures and broadening the spectrum of pleasures. And also, it devoids the relationship, or is associated with the relationship being devoid of some juvenile spirit in it. The erotic death that happens before the physical death, that changes the person, that changes their outlook in life, that correlates with losing some greed for those very prolific experiences, for this breath and pulse of life, from that devoids them of a huge portion of physical experiences. And at the same time, perhaps is associated also with conflict with the body, conflict with physicality, conflict with the relationships as a whole. It becomes really difficult to find the meaning, the value of being in a relationship in general. Why are we there? What are we doing? What are we fulfilling? What is this agreement? What is this weird abstract contract? So, loss of intimacy is both the symptom and the reason for a lot of the, in general, loss of attraction towards intimate life, loss of attraction towards eroticism, loss of attraction towards this side of life can be both a symptom and the consequence of some deep-rooted problems. And as I mentioned, one of the things that happen commonly in female life is development of physical blockage to intimacy that results in pain. And propagation of pain due to running the same sexual scenario is the thing that will re-traumatize a woman, that will keep this thing propagating, that will be convincing her on the physical and mental level that it's not worth it. It's not worth pursuing. It's dangerous. It's traumatic. So how to fix this thing? Today we're going to discuss this. We're going to discuss how to return the attraction towards intimacy, how to heal sexual life in a couple, when especially when we're dealing with more or less trusting, when we're dealing with overall good relationship that is devoid of this part because it just became something something inferior, something that became traumatizing, something that became something that lost a point, something that lost meaning. And especially when it's tied to physical inability to be intimate, which is quite common in women. The physical inability to enjoy intimacy. But let's discuss this today. In today's facet is we're going to discuss the role of attention and how our brain works in relation to our body, in relation to our arousal, in relation to our ability to go through all the phases of sexual arousal without breaking off, without compromise, without forcing things without also relying on too long of too long and pointless foreplay, to understand where relaxation and excitement and arousal, how they coexist, how they interact. So this today will be covered likely. So let's see the chat real quick and then we'll jump into the topic. I'm surprised she name dropped the IRS. There are many tools that can be used for manipulation. Intimacy is a common one. Yeah, unfortunately. She lives in America. If one side is giving more than the other, the intimacy becomes transactional. But you see, if one side, for example, a male is very active, right? The male is active, comes forward, initiates, performs the foreplay. The paradox is that even though energy-wise, like kilojoules, physical energy-wise, calorie-wise, the male is performing much more, which means that gives more. For the other side, if that process is to endure, they perceive like they're not getting even close to enough. So you may even imagine that it becomes transactional from the other perspective, even because there will be this insatiable thing that you cannot fulfill with your performance, with you giving this energy. If there is a dysfunction, if it is painful, if a woman is expecting that it's going to be painful, how are you going to compensate for that pain? How are you going to exchange that? How are you going to give the adequate exchange for that? Your efforts become depreciated in that love economy. Their efforts are depreciated because they're not what is needed. They are not going towards something that is desired by that body. And oftentimes we don't understand what we desire. Oftentimes we aren't willing to go and meet the needs of our body. Sometimes it's just very scary to do, because especially when you see that your partner is trying to do their best, but you are not in the proper mental space. You, for example, have been ignoring very fundamental needs of your body, or you have been disconnected with your sexuality, and because of that, uh, you you are just unable to get into this mood, and that creates even bigger problem. It creates even bigger problem because you also feel guilt now. There is such a cycle of disappointment, guilt, remorse in intimacy, that the idea of intimacy becomes really scary in itself. So this is the unfortunate propagation of events. And as I begin with this example with white chocolate with hazelnuts. White chocolate with hazelnuts, well, maybe eventually it will give you some zits or something, but still the pleasure is there. The pleasure is predictable. You know exactly how you will be getting pleasure from that white chocolate with hazelnuts. But with intimacy, something breaks, something stops working, and you keep riding a broken system that keeps re-traumatizing itself, that keeps propagating the issue, that keeps building more and more layers of this emotional baggage and filth that makes it virtually impossible to enjoy intimacy. Even in your thoughts becomes a scary thing. Hello guys for joining. So let's see. How can Tantra help with that? In Tantra, a big motive is diffusion. The guys who have been on my workshops, they know the practice already. They know the practice of focus and defocus. Uber facts, Farsi, hi. People who attend my workshops, they know the practice of focus and defocus. This diffusion. In arts, this diffusion is used when we are painting something. We cannot be painting like this. We cannot be painting this tiny little segment. Every 5 minutes, we need to step 2 steps away from the easel and see the whole composition. We need to see how this detail works in the entirety of our composition. And we never touch up just one thing in full detail. We never do this. We touch up here, even if you saw, by the way, some museums, they demonstrate the brushes that are this long, super long brushes. What is it made for? It's made for specifically being able to paint the composition, not the part. I can see it all coming together from a distance, not like this. And this principle translates into tantric lifestyle. I am not living like this as a result of my tantric practice. I start living like this. Seeing the big picture, yes. But it also translates, you're seeing the big picture. You're also feeling life. You can switch between those modes of this detail, the whole, detail, the whole. You perceive your body as, this is the detail on my body. I can focus on this, but I can feel my entire body as a cloud. I can feel my entire body. I can focus on my entire body. I can defocus on my entire body. I can diffuse myself in my perception. And then I can hyper-focus on something. And then I can diffuse again. Or when I practice tantric methods enough, I can do what? I can focus on this and at the same time perceive my entire body as a cloud of diffusion with all of the senses. I can focus on the palms of my hand. For example, I can ask my partner to touch the palms of my hand. I focus on both of them, or I defocus on both of them. I can focus on the very contact point between my partner's hand and the palm of my hand. Or I can feel my entire palm and feel this diffusion of how these sensations actually feel in the entirety of my palms. And then my mind can go somewhere and feel how the entire body feels in response to this relaxing touch, or maybe stimulating touch, or maybe very, very gentle, very light, diffuse touch. When I'm a tantrika, I start perceiving the world like this. I'm not only seeing this or this, I start perceiving the world through the ability to constantly switch. I learn to be able to zoom in, zoom out, diffuse. I can treat time like that. I learn to create the domains in which I can set myself, I can tell myself that we're going to diffuse the experience. I can create, for example, the context of overall arousal, very light, very just out there arousal and connection with erotic world, and I can create it on the background there. And then I can focus on it and suddenly feel it in my body, how it affects my body. I can send it to my mind as a general idea. For example, I will program myself that this is a date, so for the next 2 hours, I will be in the cloud of this context. But then what happens, I can zoom in on it. In the practice focus, defocus, we were zooming in, we were focusing on the experience, and we're expanding it. We can do the same thing with, let's say, erotic context. Some fantasy, some, in general idea, the closeness to the idea of intimacy. I can work with it. I can make it a whole context, stretched over, let's say, 2 hours. And then I focus on it, or I expand it, I let myself dissolve in it. The way you want, you can manipulate it when you are familiar with these concepts. And then when the intimacy happens, I don't come to it from what work tasks did I have to do? Let me see. Oh, laundry. I need to do laundry, then I need to cook breakfast for tomorrow because I have to leave early tomorrow. Then I also, oh my God, did I put this on my calendar? I don't know. I also need to budget some time to walk my dog. And then I need to give a call. I need to send documents. Damn, will I do it tomorrow? Will I do it now? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You are not approaching the intimacy from that when it just suddenly happens. You already created a context with which you can work. You can pull yourself in and out of it. You can increase the intensity or decrease the intensity. You can direct it into your body, and that's the practice that we're going to be working on the next workshop on Saturday, this Saturday. You can direct this into your body from something there, some abstract thing there in your mind space, somewhere on your internal screen. You can bring it into your body, and suddenly it's rooted in your body, and you start feeling the physical symptoms of arousal. These are the principles. Then I prepared some graphics today, but let's see the chat. So we have battery conversations, okay? Seeing the big picture, facts, Farsi. Thank you so much. So I prepared some graphs here. On these graphs, I depicted in intensity. Let's turn the phone a little. Intensity. And these are two corresponding graphs, intensity versus time. Let's move the lamp a little bit out of the way as well, or turn it somehow. So this is the intensity of the stimuli, arousing stimuli. It can be a fantasy, it can be physical stimulation, and physical arousal, the beginning parts of it, because then it reaches plateau, and then after the plateau, somewhere there is more or less a plateau, then there is a peak arousal, and orgasm happens if sex takes place. So what happens in the daily life of a human? Some arousing stimulus hits the mind, this peak. Just experience this peak. We see something that's stimulating, or we suddenly get introduced to the sexual context. It's a peak. Our body, unlike our mind, is inert. Arousal requires good blood supply, consistent blood supply to the area. And if this blip just happens, the arousal may start happening. It will be insufficient for a pleasureful, functional, healthy sexual act. We need to have an extended stimulus in order for a complete high-quality arousal to happen that will enable a pleasureful intimacy. This is, I'm talking more about the female body, because for males, this graph would be, of course, different. It will be a little bit more shrunk in time. But for a female body, there is some inertia in arousal, physical arousal. It can be several minutes if there is good connection, mind-body connection. It can be a little bit longer, depending on each particular case. Or it can highly depend on the stimulus. But if this stimulus, for example, a fantasy or some physical thing, happens as a blip, and the attention span is small, so a woman, for example, example, cannot retain and stretch and diffuse the stimulus, then how can we talk about proper physiological arousal? If in this point there is kind of an idea that, well, okay, something clicked, intimacy is initiated, some arousal happened perhaps, or you feel just like some tingle somewhere. Let's just go for it. Your mind after this peak might go into totally different realm. And this arousal will not be continuing if this stimulus cannot be stretched, if the stimulus cannot be diffused. Moreover, the situation becomes even more tragic when this thing is accompanied with dampening effect of previous experience. When she knows that when programs such as it's pain, guilt, etc. If these programs load up, the stimulus will die. So will the arousal. And what will happen in that scenario? In this scenario, the scenario will be replayed. Because we did not create a good, extensive, diffuse cloud of stimulus. We do not have a supporting system in our mind to achieve this high quality, healthy arousal that is necessary for pleasant, successful in the sense that there is no pain, there is pleasure in it. Intimate contact. So to achieve this, we need to create a system of stimuli, or we need to diffuse the stimuli. We either do something like this, or we do something like this, such that we also relieve the potential, we relieve the importance of this peak. So this, what illustrates here with this dampening of this peak, is this heightened importance here. When we catch this one wave that I, for example, need to get from here to here in this one peak, this is the expectation, creates an insane importance that loads all these programs. If I, in turn, design my life, design my understanding of intimacy in a way that it is a dedicated portion of my cognitive function, in which I know that it's a part of my life, in which I'm capable of diffusing this experience such that I can electively help my body to get aroused naturally without this stress, without these concepts that already exist from propagation of the previous system of trying to get this, to ride this one stimulus, this one peak, squeeze this arousal out of the body from it. If I want to change this narrative that exists in my mind, if I want to change this function to something that's bearing pleasure, not suffering, I have to create a different context. And that is where in Tantra we describe it as diffusion, as this defocus. On the one hand, I am creating, remember, a controllable environment, a box, for myself to savor this state, to savor these thoughts, to go through these impulses, to go through these stimuli. I created, for example, for 2 hours. I agree with myself. We can start small, of course. We can start from 5-minute training. For 5 minutes, I'm sitting with this stimulus. I'm stretching it out. I'm creating this controllable environment. And I'm just observing my body. This is our tantric workout. And then I see how I can diffuse this fantasy into just keeping this general awareness of the intimacy context. I just keep it there. I stretch it, I diffuse it. Let's say for a couple of hours. For a couple of hours, this is a part of my life. I'm doing even some chores, but with that in my mind. I'm walking with that on my mind, lightly. It's there. I don't demand of myself to go from 0 to 100, from one blip. This, of course, is partially an artifact of our state of hyperstimulation in general, and the rapid content that we're consuming, and the rapid economy that most people participate in. When people are expected to perform really fast, really intensively, and go in this like crush, or this like high crush mode. With sexuality, with body, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in general in the long run. And the body, the female sexuality in particular, is the wonderful illustration of that, how it doesn't work. How powerful this diffusion, coexistence of different elements, balance, how important these things are for human. So if you are a female, or you are with a female who experiences these symptoms, who experiences these processes, be grateful for that illustration. Be grateful for this communication from the body. That body is not there to play on these terms. But another important thing here is that I see a lot of coaches talking about that foreplay is like at least 40 minutes long. Like make your partner treat you for like 40 minutes at least, such that you can achieve this complete arousal. The problem I have with that notion, that with this indefinite foreplay, is that sometimes it may appear that you're not playing any part. You are an object. You are not a subject in that game. This is why I want to emphasize here that this is all in your mind. Without your mind as a female participating in intimacy, without your ability to produce, to locate energy for it, to show to your body, to instruct, to locate energy towards it, there will be no magic. Your partner can be caressing you, kissing you everywhere, petting you everywhere for 2 hours, for 5 hours, as much as energy as he has, or they have in case of homosexual relationship. But nothing will happen. You may just fall asleep if it's some relaxing touch. It requires energy on your part, and to locate energy to something, we need to signal to our brain to do that, to perceive it as a stimulus that is worthy of attention. Without that, no touch will be perceived in sexual context. This framework must be created in your mind. And for that, remember the magical phrase, the gateway phrase, I do it for my pleasure. I do it for my pleasure. And also, the magic phrase is that sex is the source of the most beautiful pleasure on the planet. This is the most beautiful pleasure, physical pleasure we can experience. You can think of it from this perspective and set it as a standard, such that for your mind, it becomes, of course, if we talk about the person who experienced some very deep trauma, SA event or something, of course, this is not an applicable strategy. But if it's just intimacy fatigue, If it's just erotic fatigue in your life that makes you just uninterested in it, then this phrase may be helpful. It's the biggest pleasure. It's the most wonderful, it's very, very beautiful, very deep, profound, unique pleasure the body can experience. Seed this to your mind, seed this idea, such that for your brain it reframes, such that your brain starts setting it as a beautiful, exciting task, such that there is an incentive for your brain to produce energy for it, to locate energy for it, cognitive energy, such that you can start collaborating on that with your mind, with your body, as opposed to having some conflict seated there. If there was some very deep essay like trauma, then there is a more profound work that we do in Tantra before we approach it this way. This would be the final step, the final chapter of our work, perhaps, with a client who comes with problems of such level, of such kind. But nevertheless, this tool of reminding yourself that, remember yesterday we were talking about that pleasure and joy are the ways nature communicates to you that you are doing something right. When you give yourself a setup that I'm doing this for pleasure, I'm doing this for pleasure, when you set it up as a task, whatever you're doing, I'm doing this for pleasure, you stop feeling as much resistance and you start designing the task. You start setting the goal in a way that is now very, very attractive for your mind. I'm doing this for pleasure. This is one of the most wonderful physical pleasures I can experience. I set this up and I start creating those domains. I sit with it for 5 minutes, trying to go through stimuli. It can be what kinds of stimuli can be used in tantric work for therapy of such situations. We can use art. We can use erotic art. It's very good to sometimes scroll through erotic art and find very beautiful aesthetically pleasing samples of art, world art. It can be European, it can be Asian, it can be African, it can be some perhaps even prehistoric arts, maybe antique arts that are depicting something that excites you, that gives you arousal. Even if it is just the excitement on the cognitive level without necessarily experiencing bright physical symptoms of arousal. Then we can work with photography. There are collections of photographs that we can look at, and we can also see what tingles there. Then we can also perhaps explore the world of sounds. We can look at some erotic videography, not black and orange website, however. It shouldn't be explicit, as it should trigger your imagination primarily. Something with perhaps not so apparent depiction of things, but something that can inspire you to produce your own fantasy, such that you are self-sufficient, basically capable of doing it yourself. Just to get this started, maybe erotic literature as well may help you formulate. No, a black and orange website MP5 tunes, not gonna work. No. We need something that is more static, something that is not apparent, not explicit, such that the fantasy works, such that the brain starts generating, based on that inspiration, starts generating the pictures that and some fantasy that will fuel and deepen and intensify your arousal. So that's what can be done for that. How we build this domain to begin with. And as I told in the every stream where we're discussing creation of controlled domain, do it with a timer. Do it with a timer. Set yourself a timer in which you are allowing yourself to fully immerse in the erotic context. You're setting a timer for, let's say, 2 minutes at a time. But for these 2 minutes, you are not doing anything, you're not focusing on anything, but creation of this erotic context, communicating with it. And then you can extend, when you work with a tantra coach, then it's done methodically. So you go with tantra coach, gives you an assignment, what to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. You're going to have a schedule. You are extending this time little by little. Then you do 2 sessions in a day, maybe 3 sessions in a day later. You're increasing frequency, you're increasing time of this domain, such that the idea of intimacy is not foreign, is not your enemy. It becomes your friend, it becomes something to look forward to. And you're getting into the habit of allowing that to seep into your life, into your daily life. And then what happens is that when you develop this overall space where it can comfortably exist, then what you can do, you can start doing these oscillations and start working with your body. In the practice that we're going to cover on Saturday, we're going to be seeding the sensations into our body. We're going to see how emotions, how activation, how some abstract things can actually bloom in our body. How we can switch between them, how we can shuffle them, how we can move them. So you start experimenting with that, the fantasy domain, connection with the body, and then you can turn it on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. Because what also will happen is that, in the why we want to learn to move between these states. Because when we're in the fantasy space, fantasy world, there are no smells, there are no sounds, there is no like visual distraction, there are no foreign thoughts. Everything happens in the perfect timeline where we can shrink the time, when we can electively choose to envision the experiences that are not necessarily that appealing in real life, perhaps. In real life, when you approach actual intimacy, if you don't have a skill of switching this on and off and controlling, being able to surf on these waves of I'm turning the arousal, I'm turning the excitement on, I'm tuning it down, I'm tuning it down, and then go back and forth between these states, what happens is that reality might shatter your ability to experience the stimuli. That's the problem with, again, with us being hyperstimulated. Our attention span is small, and in intimacy, let's say something was very intense, but then it slowed down, and you are starting to drift. You start thinking about the curtains. You start thinking about what's up with geopolitics in the world, about your plans for tomorrow, and that kills your mood. If you have a habit of getting in and out of domain of eroticism, if you have the skill of also creating the domain, knowing that, for example, this is our intimacy zone, so for the next 2 hours I'm going to be largely in this mood. If you don't have a skill of that, it will be incredibly difficult to go back and forth if some distraction happens. Because real life is not the fantasy world. Real life is not what we see in black and orange website. The real life has its own spontaneous things that can create, again, that can cause, for example, if you get distracted from this context, suddenly drop somewhere, your thoughts start drifting, you may start loading up those programs, how it's a failure, how it's pain and guilt, how it's not gonna work, how it's gonna be bad, how we're not going to come to some completion, and so on. So it may start, this small distraction can knock you off and can make you start thinking about all of these programs that completely will kill your physical excitement, physical arousal. Replaying the same scenario that was leading to propagation of trauma, propagation of remorse, and rejection of intimacy, because it felt like something painful, something unpleasant, something traumatic. So that's why we're trading not only the skill of creating this domain, but also oscillating, and also the skill of putting it in our body, such that it's not just a mental experiment, so it's not just mental exercise. NLP Faulkner. I'm teaching tantric intimacy for all. With women, however, there are typically, if we're talking about women of young age, there are typically more problems because there's less straightforward mechanism of arousal and less straightforward perception of intimacy oftentimes. It's a little bit more complex, I think. Thank you, Carlo. Chad, you're going to be so well equipped. NFJ, just listening, hello. Paxton there, hey, nice to see you. You have to intend the diffusion and intend the pleasure, your experience, your responsibility, yes. MP5 tunes melted. Hard to focus today. They say red is the color of danger. MP5 tunes, are you trying to say I'm broken? No, never tried to say that. Topics with graphs are my favorite. Wonderful. Great, Kiva. Imagination. Yes, NLP Faulkner. Because another misconception that exists in long-term relationships, people think that, oh my God, in long-term relationships, the intimacy disappeared. They forget that in the beginning of relationships, they lived in this fantasy. The thing that we're doing here, we are recreating this initial experience of excitement, because this excitement is largely formed from the fantasy. When people are just starting to date, they have a huge cloud in their mind in which they are playing different scenarios, in which their fantasy is working overtime, in which they're looking forward to meeting their loved one, the object of their affection. They want to break these boundaries. They want to connect with them. They want to feel these first things for the first time with this intensity, so much excitement. And then people live for 5 years together, 10 years together, and they're like, everything disappeared. I don't feel anything. You are not, and they're like, it was so good in the beginning. It was so good in the beginning because there was a cloud in your mind. There was a cloud in which you allowed those things to brood. Now, there is no cloud. You just want everything to be working like this from 0 to 100. How? It's functionally impossible. It's functionally impossible, and it's totally incorrect to compare. 90% of your experience back when you were just starting to date, where there was this what's perceived as freshness of feelings, was a fantasy. It was the time you were spending fantasizing of what is to happen. Which means that your mind was always primed for these things. Why do you think that now you don't have to have that primer in your mind, but you just have to have this reflex, basically a reflex of, okay, I see my partner, or like I lay in certain pose, and this pose is supposed to trigger some reflex of instant arousal. Never worked like that for you. And it likely never will. Hello, I appreciate the fact that you talk so eloquently about the topic of intimacy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Carlos Castillo, hello. But yeah, men or women doesn't matter. And also for men, it's very important to also be equipped with how to pursue these things healthily as well. The relationships between men and women in intimacy, partnership in that realm, and also the power balance is also very important to understand. I am not a proponent of power of hierarchies in intimacy in general, and I believe, not believe, I from what I've known, from what I've experienced, what I've worked with, I know that having flat interaction, partnership interaction, in which a female is encouraged to be active, in which female initiative, movement, energy is also welcomed and um, brought on stage, or there is, for example, power dynamic, one partner is passive, one is active, then it switches. So keeping the balance such that the overall hierarchy is flat is very beneficial, because with that situation when um, a man might one, two, three times enjoy the hierarchy when there is the power balance shifted to a man, the leadership and initiative and intimacy shifted to a man, that can create this victim woman eventually that will lose any incentive, that will lose any desire, that will lose any understanding of her role in intimacy, and that will feel again remorseful towards intimacy, that will feel like she's being used, that will feel like she needs to be rewarded for that intimate act that she's enduring every time. I came to conclusion that bringing equal energy into intimacy is very highly important. Yep, to make intimacy work after 5 years run, it's a matter of choice by making conscious steps towards building it. Therefore, love is a choice. Yes. Don't forget to double tap the screen, guys. Thank you so much, J. If the man does everything, would you say the woman doesn't like him during intimacy? I wouldn't say that woman doesn't like him. I would say that the woman perhaps doesn't like what is happening to her body. Let's word it this way. She likely doesn't like what is happening to her body, but she likes the man and she feels like she needs to allow this to happen. That's the unfortunate thing. When there is, it's likely not liking, disliking. It's rather the issue of what we're in relationship for and what our place in relationship is. To me, it would be a symptom of woman losing herself in a relationship. This is how I would view that. If a man does everything, a woman is there just go ahead, just renting her body out, it's a very actually scary and concerning sign that she is likely losing herself in a relationship. The relationship itself, the concept of relationship, is somehow more important for her than her pleasure, than her body. This is how I would frame it. We're getting to the core of the topic. This is great. Give us so many layers, so many layers. I don't know where we will spin out of this. Yeah, that seems very disconnected. Yes, INFJ. It is a very sad scenario. And if you let this go, if you don't actually view it as an issue, if you don't bring it up as like something is off, then it is likely going to end in rejection of intimacy and in disconnect from her body. This is a social issue, societal issue of programming, issue of previous trauma. When body sensations, when body signals are being ignored. She perhaps grew up in the environment that was prioritizing something else there and then than her well-being. Maybe she was in a relationship that broke her connection with the body, showed her that she's less valuable than something there and then. This is actually an issue with sex workers. They feel like their body is less valuable than some resources. So they're willing to go into abusing their body because the body bears less value than the resources that they get. They were shown when they were little girls, they were shown that your body is not valuable. You feel pain, I could care less. You're uncomfortable, I could care less. Your physical needs are nothing. You want to sleep, I could care less. Don't sleep. You feel pain, be strong, I don't care. You want to use bathroom, tolerate. Your body is so dumb that it wants to use bathroom when we're on the road trip and we've been driving for 2 hours. Tolerate. There are things far more important than you needing to use bathroom. And then physical abuse, of course, as a child also can play this role. Or psychological abuse, neglect can play this role. This communication that your body is less important, the well-being, the pleasure of your body is not important. So the programming, the base setup in the mind in that case is that the threshold is very high, the pain threshold. And pursuit of pleasure is not even on the chart there. Pursuit of pleasure is so low in priority. The body effectively, the human lives in survival because they live in the context of tolerable or not tolerable pain. And that's sad. And that's when this it's easy to rent out your body. They feel like it's possible. They feel like it's okay to rent their body out. Rent it out. I don't care. Do whatever. And then this metaphor that I was using for that, their intimate organs, their body becomes this abused puppy that would want to play, but it was abandoned. Before it was, let's say, before parents or some terrible psychotic partner were abusing that body. Now the person herself, she will be doing that. She kicked that puppy, she beat this puppy up. She neglected it. Let it be, imagine throwing it to some, I don't know, some psychopath's kids who are just beating this puppy, and you're just standing watching it being beaten up. And then you want this puppy to trust you. You want this puppy to have trust. You want this puppy to be playful. No, this puppy will be seeking safety and will be extremely terrified of all the experiences. But that's the illustration of that. When you separate from your body, you surrender control, your attitude is that I don't care, something else is more important right now than this, the price is very high. How could they not realize something was off though? They must have been as just disconnected to not notice. Again, it's also socially acceptable. Everybody's subjected to some programming. There are shows that the family shows, you know, in which they demonstrate people who live in the context of hating each other, of being extremely fatigued of each other, but they have house and kids. And they, in the whole like plot of the show that has multiple seasons, will be depicting their turmoil of living there just like neighbors. Or in Russian culture, actually, there is this term, intimacy in marriage is called marital duty. It's basically the same word as debt or financial obligation that's used for just depicting intimacy in marriage in a stable couple. It's literally a chore. There are so many speakers, even to this day, that are talking about that close your eyes, stand in the position, turn away, and let him finish. If you want to live well, it's still a part of the culture. It's still part of the folklore in the culture. After years of being polished up by feminism, by progressivism, it's still a normal folk that exists. Listen to Treadwife talk. You are the property of your husband. If he wants, spread your legs and do the duty. This is the folk. This is what culture is bringing. And when we have so much reinforcement of this philosophy, so much reinforcement of this attitude, yes, some aware men who actually have analytical thinking, they will notice that something is off. But for some men, it will be, well, it's normal. So they won't be alarmed. There are psychopaths. There are men who are in character, basically, who are in character of some symbol of what masculinity should entail. They're not necessarily experiencing the world from within. They're experiencing the world from some image that they were entitled to. Good old, would you sleep with someone for a car? Why not? I've slept for a phrase, you're not like others. Sure. That's messed up, yes. Very sensitive to children not being treated the right way in development. So likewise. So sounds like past trauma and conditioning results in them not being open to intimacy and pleasure. Responsibility here would be on that person, not on the part of the partner. Of the partner, there would be, if they're interested in keeping the relationship, partner would provide a very great aid by showing that they are, for them, it's also a priority. If you just tell your partner that I'm going to be playing the same scenario, and you do your stuff, work on yourself, this will be very traumatic, and this will rather propagate this scenario. If you stand right with your partner and communicate to them through action that I'm with you, I want you to be happy, I want you to enjoy it, I want you to find the way to enjoying this beautifully, to having this as a harmonious part of life. You stand with them and you're asking questions. You're creating a safe, trusting environment in which they can share their impressions, in which they can be vulnerable, in which they can be exploring other facets of their life, in which they can know for sure they're not being judged. They don't have to be guilty. You will not hurt them. You can help by ensuring, guaranteeing that any pain or discomfort that they communicate is going to be addressed. You're not going to force anything upon them. This is the role of a partner in this healing. Communicating clearly and supporting it with action that, please tell me if you are either not feeling anything or not enjoying it, or if it's painful, and you're stopping immediately and you're both looking for a solution. Another thing that will need to happen there is that sometimes the intimacy, the sexual act, we perceive it sometimes as we start, then we go through some peaks, and then the orgasm happens or ejaculation happens, and this is sex. A very important, very handy tool will be in that process of healing, and in general, you will grab it and you will continue with that likely, is to, as we are expanding this domain, expand the idea of intimacy, expand the idea of what sex constitutes, broaden the boundaries of that scenario. If, for example, your partner says that I don't feel like doing it anymore, you are stopping and you are continuing on some perhaps emotional connection, something more oxytocin driven, something more of like tenderness. Or perhaps also there could be a tool to, if something doesn't work, if you want to take a break, if she wants to take a break, you can agree that let's just calmly be close to each other, and then we go back to, we'll try again to do something of more arousal, more sexual context in like 5 minutes. You can do something like that. There's a huge role of a partner in that. It's not that you're just sitting there and like waiting. Have you healed yet? No? Too bad. And now? It's not like that. It's a collaborative work. Alekos, hello. Abatapa, for you being a log example, the F up was earlier, is not in not neglecting the body, but in making decision to be with that person, isn't it? It doesn't matter which person. It doesn't matter. If it's you can be with the most wonderful person that you terribly strongly love. It's not the partner necessarily. It is the pattern of neglecting the body. Because relationships as they are, like we're living together, that we have some synchronized schedules, they are not necessarily natural. They submit humans to some artificial timelines. And intimacy does not necessarily obey the artificial timelines. Our libido does not obey to artificial timelines. It wouldn't want to be. This is where the conflict of this artificially established system with artificial timing, with artificial process happening, and something that's very animalistic, something that's very spontaneous, this conflict can create this problem. Also, the concept of how it should be. I know that it should be done 3 times a week. I know that it should be done in this sequence. The concept itself will start propagating the problem, no matter the person by your side. The difference between the permanent partner, who you find very attractive, and some other guy who you also find very attractive, but with whom, for example, you will have this once a month in case of like some infidelity. The difference will be the amount of fantasy and the context that surrounds these two systems. Move in with that other guy. The context will change, the attraction will change. Of course, there are cases, okay, I'm generalizing right now, but there are cases, you're right, when you are with the wrong person. But typically people will say that I'm with the best person on the planet. They will say that I felt so much excitement when I saw them. Sometimes even arousal happens in the head. It just doesn't propagate onto the body. There is not enough impulse from that mental arousal. There's not enough impulse to propagate it, to launch it into something steady, and to lead to complete physical arousal. There could be that, oh my God, he's so attractive. But there is no resource, there is no ability to propagate into something more consistent, something more sufficient. And when you are anticipating this meeting with this guy, there, you are building up this context to be much stronger, much broader, much more powerful then this attraction to your man that becomes old news, because again our brain loves novelty, our brain loves those blinking pictures. Did you know that elephants live till scroll? Scientists just revealed that in the core of the earth, scroll. Some TikTok dance, scroll. Not just Russia, Nastya, NFJ. Yeah, I guess. I have this guilty pleasure of watching some weird YouTube channels in Russian. So, and also I like to listen to critique and different like reviews of different phenomena in Russian specifically. So that's why I'm more probably exposed to that context. But yeah, the in America also is staying strong about that. On that, how about if you want to leave but you don't want to lose your family? If intimacy is dead, how about? What? How about? Do you want to leave your family? Have you had a discussion? Intimacy is dead. Is trust dead? Is discussion dead? Is there a way to? Is there a way to have at least something started, something initiated, some reconciliation? Societal marriage is more like socially accepted form of prostitution. Often, yeah. I mean, yeah, the whole like this, we trade, women trade themselves for a piece of metal with a gemstone. Their father performs basically symbolically a trade of her daughter to another man. The ring has a specific price tag that should signify the purchase value. It is. Oftentimes it is, yes. Roland, hello. Thank you, Carlos, for a gift. But it is deep down in nature in man-woman relations, trading beauty for resources. It's in the nature where one side is physically weaker and can fight for resources. But it's such a bullshit. It's outdated thing. Women are very capable of finding resources. Women are very capable of hunting, of gathering, of creating products, of doing so many things. It's a very dated thing. There are new studies nowadays that discovered that half of the hunters that were dug out were actually female. So it's not. It's an agricultural thing. Moreover, it is women were just as slaves in the fields as males were when they were in the slave class. There is no evidence supporting that. You're talking about some Victorian era corset, um, high society woman who's fainting every 10 minutes, being anemic and having her diaphragm squeezed such that she can't breathe. You're talking about that frail theory that has nothing in common with reality. Women are strong, women are powerful, women are capable and have been showing that throughout human history. Lately, depression meds have had a lame impact on the sex life. Paxton Bear comments. Perhaps, yes, they are definitely hindering libido in a lot of individuals. It's a common side effect. I don't agree about that. In a relationship, the stronger should be lifting the weaker, not praying. One is one. Wonderful, actually, comment, NFJ. That's another way to look at it. But then also, it's who is weaker? We are both subjects of our life. Not life happens to this person and the will of this person happens upon this person and this person lives life. No, they're both living life. They're both meeting together for some like interesting things and then they're living their life. It's not this nature and animal side of us work. I don't know, who are you, us? Not working for a majority of people. That's a myth. In Russia, there is now this subculture of women, I guess post-feminism women, who are basically having a price tag. that believe that woman must not work, lift a finger. The only duty that she has is to go do laser hair removal, then inflate lips, and stay home and be the muse, whatever it means. And the men must do everything else. But that is an interesting subculture that again has nothing to do with the reality of things. Woman has just as much of a component that's capable of working in the world as the man does. For women, it's even more powerful because women are also in their reproductive context. If a woman is empowered, if a woman is seen by the society, if she has a placement in society and social capital, her producing, she also will produce an offspring, and she will be doing all of that with an offspring. Women have superpower. It's a very weird concept of this castrated femininity, of this castrated woman. The idea, there are so many, oh my god, I was in relationships with a person who caused a lot of problems for me. And it took me years to realize that. But initially, my first impulse was to try to work on myself. And I went through such a hail of an internet teaching that at some point, when I tried accepting those teachings, I realized eventually how much of myself I lost to it. It was absolutely nuts. There are teachings that are like, show him that you're weaker. Never show him how much you make. Never flash your talents. Never show that you're smart. Never show that you're capable. Slow down. Be slow. Don't be energetic. Don't be in your masculine. All of that fuckery. There's so much of it, and it's such a sure path to cause you to go into the deepest depression, to steal your attractiveness, to steal your libido, to steal your creative ability. It's just criminal to propagate that among women. And then men themselves will be feeling like something's off. Inadequate men. Co-creating and reflecting each other and growing and enjoying together. Amen. NLP? Co-creating, yes, exactly. Exactly. It's not that we bond together and then one person is just like, hee, and the other person like, I'm going into the world and you're sitting here and like in this shelter. What is that about? And that's the precedent for this prostitution, basically. Where she's sitting like this chick at home like, oh, did you bring me a worm? And he's like, yes, parent and daughter relationship. She will eventually rebel or will suppress herself to the point of deep depression. Neither case is pleasant to be around. Neither case is pleasant or healthy to experience. Terrible. Destruction of personality, loss of autonomy, loss of any foundation, loss of the core of the character, stability, safety, security. When eventually your whole world narrows down to the man, and then the hyper anxiety, hyper attention to that he may leave at any point. At the same time, I terribly want him to leave because I feel like I want to breathe. I want to live my life, but I can't. Because there's this figure that's completely oppressive. And again, the concerning sign is when this happens, do whatever you want. This is when a woman is losing her subjectivity, when she is no longer a subject in her own mind. This is the first, maybe a first step. She basically rents out her body. It's a very important thing to monitor in relationship. When you notice that, what is happening? Are you with me right now? Are you with your body right now? Come back. I could never emotionally cope with some of things I hear some women putting up with. I wouldn't be here. Exactly. There are women that are strong. However, in the mass, that's not the case. There are stronger women, sure, but on average, men just stronger and always were. I do hear US university background, right? Avatapa, humans do not have to be physically strong to eat and to be safe. Humans need good community and intellect. Humans have been evolving through development of tools, through intellectual prowess, not through physical gorilla-like strength. Prostitution is not the most ancient profession. The most ancient profession is midwife. You're welcome. Prostitution, in fact, did not exist before the agriculture existed. Women used to be free, and they used to be reproductively free and sexually free. The first profession was midwifery, when women were helping women to give birth, assisting, creating comfort, and this like nested environment. So here was today illustration of how we work with the concept, with some practices that we are learning, how we can use them in multiple scenarios for multiple things. And also we've looked into the principle of how we can create this diffuse stimulus, how we can train the ability to go between the climatic points of our arousal, then go calm down, then go up, go down, how to connect with our body. There are practices for that, practical things. So what is the result of such exercises? The result of such exercises, the result of such work will be that we completely reframe what intimacy means to us. Instead of it occupying some domain of some our internal political life, politics and economy of our family, we locate it where it belongs. In the domain of my desires, my pleasure. It starts living there. We bring it to the domain, my pleasure, my desires. And at the same time, we start treating intimacy first through this lens, but also with a scale of ease, with a scale of playfully manipulating our states, and also observing and influencing how our body responds to that. I didn't mention this thing that we're also training the different responses on these peaks. We're effectively training our nervous system to get relaxed, excited, relaxed, excited. In Tantra, we do exercises for that. The practice on Saturday will be about that. Relaxation, excitement, relaxation, excitement. We're training our physical body, we're training our mind, and we're creating the whole domain in which the context of intimacy for pleasure exists. This pleasureful intimacy, this cloud, this beautiful garden where I can enter whenever I want. When intimacy happens, I'm no longer being neurotic in it, that something will go wrong, or if I sneeze right now, sex will end, or I will lose arousal, or I will spoil everything. No, because it's a diffuse, fluid, playful process, and I know I can go in and out. Then, when I include my body, when I learn to work with my arousal, when I start controlling that, when I suddenly realize that the connection with my body, also important thing, when I reconnect with my sexual organs, when I let them know that it's safe, that we're here for pleasure, when I'm addressing their needs, when I'm creating the domain of safety and pleasure, this is when I start paying attention, I start sensitizing myself, I start building the neuron connections that will be allowing more signals to pass through, that will increase my pleasure potential, increase my pleasure capacity. With good, fulfilling, proper arousal, there will be far more pleasure and no pain during the intercourse. Moreover, I will learn through these practices, I will learn to immediately address, prioritize the signals of my body, that I'm not there to endure anything. Pain means change the way. Pain means stop and pivot. And I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of losing momentum because I know that I am capable of returning myself back to the sexual context. I'm not afraid to lose the moment. I'm not afraid to interrupt the things because my body and my pleasure are my priority. I establish a very beautiful, trusting dialogue with my partner, and we actually start learning about each other. One side effect there may be that you will, through first becoming very aware and listening and acting upon your body's signals, you will realize how much more connection with your authentic desires you now have. What a beautiful exploration it will be with your partner. You will realize that perhaps you lived not knowing something very important about each other. But this process may be an invitation for you to playfully talk about your deepest desires and start working together and building a more playful, more bright world, as opposed to beige adult or grayish adult existence together for the sake of who knows what, of some contractual agreement. Life will infuse your relationship. Play will infuse your relationship. Listening to yourself, listening to your body, and supporting it with creating a pleasureful context will give such a powerful feedback in your mind of how you can listen to yourself and make your life better. Where else can you do something that you truly want and experience this beautiful ecstasy, this reward from life? The outcomes may be super surprising. And you seemingly just work on your sexuality. But it's not just sexuality. It's the access to your vital forces. It's the access to your integration. You are integrating all parts of your body based on the law of pleasure, not based on the law of duty, pressure, survival, not based on the law of some societal approval, mom's approval, father's approval. No, you're basing this integration on the law of pleasure. And you're accessing your powers. You're accessing your powers, your leadership that comes from being very in tune with your desires and ability to act upon them. This is leadership. You're training your leadership skills, creatorship. This is how beautiful and comprehensive it is. And in your relationships, again, you may find so many more facets to your partnership. And at the same time, so much more freedom in the world. Your world will expand. Instead of having some short-circuited, pain-driven situation, that draws a lot of your energy and attention because of these programs of this compromise that I have to please my partner, but at an expense of my discomfort and pain and guilt. Instead of this bullshit, you are opening up to the world, you're opening up to the life, you're opening up to the world of pleasure, we're opening up to your talents, you're opening up to your desires, you're opening up to your execution, to this flow of energy. It's a totally different way of life. I'm so curious to see where this conversation is going. Whenever there are disagreements, the conversations get quite interesting. But it requires grounded individuals who are in their strength and can be true to themselves and in their relationships, not faking to please or get what they want. Integrity is key. There has to be a trust in and of life and reality. You have to want to play. You will be, again, the analogy with the puppy. The puppy, any dog wants to play. When a dog does not want to play, when they have been hurt, when they feel like play is unsafe. Why is playing unsafe? Playing is unsafe because something showed that being playful is painful. So we need to work on that. And then you're saying that it requires this, it requires that. If person comes to conclusion that their life is miserable, this is when they are going to be trying different things. This is when they are going to be attempting different things. And whether their partner will be on board with that or not, there are a lot of things that can be. I told you that partner is, if you are coming from the perspective of the partner, I told you what you could do to help. But if a person comes and they've been experiencing some pain related to their intimacy or relationships, they come to seek help, but they realize that there's such a distance between them and their partner, they're not willing to even have a trusting conversation. There's still so much a person can do on their own as well to build that power to bring themselves to the equal position with their partner, such that it's not scary to have a conversation, or it's not scary to leave. So this is this can be done. A lot of the things can be done alone. Integrity is key. Got it in one. Faulkner speaks sense. No integrity, no trust. Hence why I'll never. That one. The one, love. That one. Let me grab some tea. Basics of pickup while seducing says that to help a woman being aroused is take away from her responsibility on what's happening. Their nature will kick in. That's rough form of what you're saying. Basics of pickup. I don't know any women who, I mean, there are very insecure women who drew from any sign of attention, who drew from pickup, but pickup is usually so tacky that, I don't know, maybe there are women who are susceptible to that. I remember I had a couple of guys who were attempting pickup on me. I just started doing pickup on them. I started just commenting on everything they were doing. I mean, you're doing this because of this, you're doing this for this purpose, you don't have to do this. Yeah, and I just was like cracking their strategies, just or I was just playing kind of to just see what they would be doing. It was just so hilarious. It's always very comical. You know that all those moves are those smooth things. Oh, they're usually so visible and so tacky. What do you think about pour? Would that be considered helpful or harmful during play? What's your opinion about that? Again, I would prefer to work with erotics. I would prefer to work in the mental space. It's very important to um, be able to create context in your head. When you're fed context, when you're fed this thing, when you have the super spike of stimulus, you are kind of hijacking the system, but you are not building the self-sufficient system. This is why I would advise to, instead of black and orange content, I would advise to use images. I would advise to use something that rather provokes you to play things in your head and to focus on what you want, as opposed to being fed the ready picture of what the filmmaker envisioned. See what I'm saying? Fantasy, yes. It can be, I don't know, piece of clothing that promotes your fantasy. It can be some object, it can be some scenario. You can play with your partner, for example, and like you can tell, oh, naked on a white horse, beautiful. This already is, I'm already like imagining it. Yes, it can be a very powerful visual with so many scenarios to unfold. You can play with your partner. You can play a game of tell me like the porn story or something. You can exchange those things with each other. You tell some short snippet, they tell you some short snippet, and that can spark your fantasy mutually, as opposed to just popping like some video and just like, okay, let's just do it. Your mind is chewing something that's already chewed up for you. But systemically, nothing brilliant happens. You are not developing the skill of coming up with scenarios. You're not developing a skill of listening to your desires. Another thing that we do actually in Tantra coaching, when the client comes with some sexual blockages, I prepare pictures, different scenarios. So they're just photographs that are images, like some pictures, some lithography pictures from the past of different cultures. And I ask the client, which one do you find appealing? Well, this one. Okay. We pick like one or a couple of those, and then I ask my client to tell me what is happening in this picture. Tell me what was happening before and what will be happening afterwards. Can you tell me what context surrounds this picture in your mind? And they are thinking, what is attractive to me? What's cool for me? What's exciting for me? Bob, you're welcome. Lingerie, Chad likes lingerie. That's a good one too. That's something to also embrace. Story time, something like that. Yes, it can be a lot of fun. It can, and again, it's everything that makes your brain work on its own. To be able to sustain that, to be able to constantly recreate the context in your head. And that is why I like that over black and orange website, is because it's good to avoid something that hyperstimulates you and that gives you something one. For example, you learn that you cannot get anywhere without this video. It becomes your only way to getting anywhere. You don't have flexibility, you don't have scenarios, you don't have connectedness with yourself, you're not grounded in somewhere in your mind, you're not grounded in your body. It's unstable. It's not sustainable. This is why I promote, for the sake of sustainability, stability, comfort. Comfort as in, I can do it this way, 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 that way, and I'm always looking forward to inventing more ways. Sustainable, safe, comfortable, flexible, creative. Always to look forward to something. Not closed-circuited on something one, that if you take it away, nothing works. No, we're developing as much flexibility and skill as possible. Becoming creative, yes. Oh, Paxton Bear, wonderful news. Interview with on their king tomorrow for someone's channel. Super random, you see? Fishnets with mermaids in them. Oh. That's a wonder. That's a very a wonder. Wonder promoting, not the wonder. It's wonderful, and wonder promoting. You could probably. I now it's so interesting. I start like imagining that, and it would, you could paint that. You could write a tale about it. It's interesting. I gathered more information than I expected from this topic. I can say I'm officially satisfied with this result. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm scared I'm getting too focused on kink and needing it lately. Fear? Well, it's legit to be scared because of some perhaps overwhelm or perhaps of some novelty. But at the same time, you got this. Tomorrow, your interview, you will not be showing more than what you have in you. You're not expected to. And it will go very well. You will go there. First minutes, probably, you will be like, but then you will get into the flow. The person will support you. The person will be by your side. And you will feel, oh, sunshine, thank you. You will feel a lot of connection. You will feel seen. You will feel accepted. And it will be very beautiful overall, I think. So, good luck tomorrow. Magic Dragon. What's your workshop on, NLP Faulkner? My workshop will be this week. It will be on the practice of how to work with the body, how to basically see the motions and sensations in the body. We're going to be observing how we can activate different modes of operation of our body, of our nervous system, and how our body experiences that. So it's a very powerful mind-body connection. We will also observe how our body perceives emotions, how our body experiences emotions. How is that to feel an emotion? How it is to see an emotion or sensation in the body. Very cool practice. So before we did, last time we did focus, defocus, and one relaxing practice, and the time before we did practice was visualization practice on its Shiva and Shakti concept. Basically, induction of the image of the perfect lover, and then integration with it. And the idea was initially to bring it to completion with the practice of rewriting the experiences, but we didn't have time. We kind of, all participants got so interested in the process of journeying through that meditation that we actually didn't end up doing the practice that uses that imagery. So that's something that we need to do later. You should give it a go. Yes. You just send me an email, by the way. If you want to participate, you send me an email, and my email is, let's see, right? Let's erase this, and I'll write my email. So that's the email. You just email me. It's free for attendance. Small group. I don't gather many people, such that everyone can have say. And we're just trying practices. I gather your feedback. We are seeing what works, what doesn't work, how it felt, what your experiences were like, what effects it had on you. So we are doing that. And then I will be posting, I'm, you know, I will be posting practice on my website such that you can, with schedules, with instructions for how to do everything, such that you can integrate it in your daily life. So, but first, we're trying everything and getting familiar. The gift was tempting. Your sunshine is super cool. Thank you. In the bedroom, though, I need to get a little more flexible, I think. Okay. Hey, Tantra Police, I'm not against and I do agree with most what Nasty's saying. My questions are just dumb nitpicking. It's cool. With the focus defocus, it was interesting how I got two different emotions out of it, but at the same time, it was really cool. Yeah, there are interesting things that happen on an individual basis. With focus defocus, yeah, it's a powerful practice that works with visual of an image. But remember, we're discussing how focus defocus can apply to body, emotions, life scenarios, thoughts, sensations. We can manipulate them in the same exact way. So we can use focus defocus practice, not just the mere hygienic practice, because remember, one of its premises is to allow the brain to rest deeply. But also we develop a skill of changing the focal distance and also the lightness or weight of the phenomena that are happening. Very useful, very diversely usable practice. That here we do the same thing. We're doing defocus. We can manipulate the sensations, we can manipulate our fantasy, we can manipulate our um emotions. Wait a minute, we have Tantra Police. This is new to me. Yeah, to me too, apparently. Let me plug in. Oh my god, we should, by the way, make a merch like that. Tantra Police. Oh my god, we should definitely make a merch. Kiva, my understanding is one should not offend on this channel. Tantra Nastya Kuzi dress and free speech. Damn, suddenly my universe changed. Just need Zoom installed. Yes. What's happening? Am I reading all messages? Weird. Why did your universe change? Tantra Banda. I just know the community is Tantra Banda. Fruity Cutie can, of course, confirm this. Now, where is Fruity Cutie? Fruity Cutie is skipping classes. Ah, the sound. Is it okay? Outlaw Angel, hello. Yes, we're missing our Fruity Cutie. Yeah, super. Okay, good. Let me check if there is rain outside. The other day I was out of home and the sky was clear when I left. And I had 2 loads of laundry hanging there with the jacket, with a thick jacket. And the forecast was saying that there will be no more rain. And while I was out, There was a 30-second downpour that just wetted all of the laundry, and oh my god, that's when I skipped the stream. I had to wash everything because it started like smelling musty and stuff. Great to make your acquaintance again. Likewise. Stick around. So, where are we? Where are we? On our work right now. Let me also see where's my charge. So 19%. Good. I didn't get notification for the night. Had to go looking for it. Sorry. You're like physicist, right? Yeah, pretty much. I am a physicist, engineer, and tantra coach. No, my current profession is tantra coach. Passionate about it. But yeah, for webinar we meet in Zoom, and we basically cover tantra. Yes, we basically cover the topic with some introduction, and we mostly focus on the practice and discussion. So it's not just like a lecture where you're sitting and bored. No, you're trying things on the workshops. And I created them in a separate fashion from the live streams because I want more closed environment. I want people who are familiar, and I want people who will be actually interested in trying things. That's why it's separated from my YouTube. Kiva will be multitasking this time. Okay, it's fine. Moreover, Kiva is already familiar with the practice, somewhat familiar with the practice that we're going to be doing. The left US not long ago, the other 12 ex-physicists disappeared. She left US not long after the other 12 ex-physicists disappeared. What's the story of that? It's in my claws. I must try all things, sure. Yes, but I won't lose focus. Anyone has anything to add on the topic of today's conversation, by the way? Any questions, concerns? There's 12 US science physicists disappeared recently in US? Whoa. I should read about it. Now I'm intrigued. All connected to either NASA or Area 51. I was at NASA. I was presenting there at 2 conferences, I think. Such a strange place. They look like this, they feel like some old school institution. I can definitely balance both tantra and music. It's like taking notes. Yes, good. Show some of credentials. Show some Outlaw Angel. Just Google me on Google Scholar. I don't have to show you any credentials. It's all public access. It's not something hidden. Multitasking is a magistrantka skill. One of science teachers used to work for NASA Dr. Go. You're still doing these gigs? I can't believe they paid to do that. Who are you, fruity or colorful ones? Show a diploma or something. I love you either way. Yes, Kiva. Questions, yes. I really want questions on the topic, and such that we stay on track. I kind of want to have one substantial question before we do the review, because I want to. We somehow detoured a little bit. Okay, my question involved before I continue, we're stopping here for the topic. Так, Outlaw Angel, bye bye. I'm tired of you. And this incinerator sticks. So, any questions, any comments, any case studies, any stories, any thoughts on the topic that we've discussed today on attention, intimacy, reframing intimacy, relearning how to enjoy intimacy again? Okay, we need to bend from the whiteboard. Sure, think about it, guys. Partner selection should be based on equality along with attraction. Yeah, it's ease, it's ability to talk, it's about comfort, it's feeling comfort in the presence of the partner, such that there is no desire to shrink yourself in their presence, such that there is uh, some light, pleasant feeling in their presence. No self repression in both ways. No physical also symptoms of, you know, headache, belly cramps, itching, a bunch of like somatic symptoms of nervous distress. These are things that are very important. Equality, yes, is also important one. But again, our mind sometimes plays such tricks that we find someone unequal based on equality, but then boom, and suddenly we're in hierarchy that we craft. So that's on the one hand, it's a good guideline, yes, such that again we don't have to feel inferior or feel superior to the person. But then the important thing to remain mindful about that, such that if hierarchy establishes on why is that so? What am I hiding from inside of the hierarchy as the inferior, for example? Or what am I trying to hyper control in the hierarchy as a superior? Then, MJ, is intimacy in topic purely sex or intimacy like trust and etc.? Both. It's all comprehensive. Having trust, being able to be comfortable enough to be open is a kind of prerequisite for healthy sex. Unless a person is addicted to danger, for example. But in most cases, feeling safe, feeling comfortable is the internal permission to be intimate with someone physically. But again, some traumatic scenarios may be played as needing to feel danger, needing to feel some risk, maybe pain. Those things also can manifest. Okay, question. Do some women actually think that intimacy should be sore through whatever experience, misguidance, trauma, whatever? And if so, Is there any widely available help or awareness of this if it's in common study? There is an incredible case study that is something that breaks my heart really strongly. Can you guess what's in my mind? What example I have in my mind? What culture, what ritual, what custom I have in my mind? You don't want to, but it's female genital mutilation performed by women on young girls without anesthesia, with dirty tools. FGM is the procedure of cutting down sensitive external parts of vulva, and stitching the entrance to the vagina and the vulva to stitching them, only leaving a tiny hole for menstrual blood to escape and for peeing. The procedure is done without any hygiene, so it's highly dangerous in itself, but the continuation of this ritual is such that the first intimacy, if we may call it such, the first time the woman is taken by her husband, the husband rips this system, basically violently abusing this girl. And it's not having penetration into a vagina. It's penetrating in the bloody mess. And women perform this procedure on their daughters, because this is the only way their daughter will be taken by someone. This is the only way their daughter will have access to resources when she grows up. They believe, the proponents of this barbaric, I know it's violent, barbaric, terrible ritual, they believe that a woman is lustful by nature if she has her clitoris. So they remove it such that the woman never experiences lust and sexual pleasure. This procedure is still performed in some areas in Russia. There was even a precedent of this procedure being performed in Moscow in 2025 on girls. Their mothers bring them to the clinic, or in the villages, it happens in the hut somewhere with a kitchen knife as a glorified ritual, because a woman shall not be lustful. And this is the consequence of multiple centuries. It's in Africa, yes, it is in multiple places on earth, it's practiced. Multiple centuries of fearing female sexuality, making it evil, inherently evil, dangerous, terrible. I hope this answers your question. But there are proponents of that, yes, as well, in a softer form. As we mentioned, whether you want it or not, spread your legs, please your husband. There's also a practice still alive. A lot of women who are contemporaries of my mom, maybe less so my generation, but still happens. They end up in abusive gynecology. When they go to birth child or they go to exams, and doctors yell at them like, it was not painful for you to spread your legs, now it's painful for you to birth. Or they perform procedures with a lot of rudeness, with a lot of cruelty, with a lot of aggression. Because female sexuality is something inherently dirty, something inherently terrible, dangerous, guilty, weird, gross. This still happens on different levels. But this notion of that female sexuality, something to punish for, is still alive. And then the more painful sex is, the better. Because it's exculpation. It's supposed to be. How dare you want pleasure from your filthy, disgusting body? You're here an incubator. A muscle tube for sperm. Enjoy, bitch. This is how female sexuality is treated widely. That's why I do what I do. Because that's what's been one of the biggest conflicts that I had growing up. That female sexuality is punished on different levels. Whether you bring it to the stage of having a child, being pregnant, then you're being punished by the system for that. Or you are entering relationships and some coaches tell you that relationships, you need to squeeze yourself, shrink yourself, minimize yourself, abuse yourself, and use your sexuality for transaction. Or older women's mantra that give sex to a man only when he deserved. So train men to basically withhold sex, because sex is the most powerful tool to control your man and make him do what you want. This devoids the system of female subjectivity, devoids the system of female sexuality as a whole. It's a silent thing. It's not spoken wide. It's not spoken openly that it rejects female sexuality. But this is what this context implies. And this is what breeds this perception of that it's totally bullshit thing. Ordering more steel tomorrow. Horrible either way, but I didn't know it was widely practiced. It is. Look at the stats. But it's a primitive way of getting women's energies under control. More sophisticated religions do it in other forms. Damn, I agree. But every trouble is one beginning. A woman said bored. Interesting conclusion. Are the authorities able yet to raise early awareness of this at the vulnerable target minorities? That it's mostly any resolution of this conflict is performed solely by volunteers, surprisingly, because the authorities there, these systems are not secular. We should understand that. These systems are not secular, these societies are not secular. So there is a bond between their cult and their authorities. Dirty Gross explained, man has to pass resources to own children. Depriving a woman of lust ensures woman won't cheat and all kids will be husband's kids. Again, dumb, but these were the times. Yeah, such barbaric measures. Yeah, control tactic from small minds, all this mutilation. There's also women retaining sexual availability to control men in the same cultures. Women has the benefit of knowing who is the father, while men do not have it, and resources were controlled by men. So we're there again. And that's when private property became more expensive than children, more valuable, and it has always been. Children have never been a value for simple people, except for workforce. So children were investment, upfront investment to make them workforce. If you live in the slave class, then children are ultimately a burden for the first 5 years of life. Plus also with very high risk imposed on return on investment, which the children would die. There was very low survival rate among toddlers, among infants, so that among slave classes who ate grains predominantly. So the hygiene also was not there. Nutrition was not present. Healthy nutrition was not a thing. So return investment would be very low overall across all children. And then those children would become workforce. So why does my brain ask questions like sorry. And women actually did know who the father could be before agricultural revolution. They slept with whoever they liked. And everybody knew only who mother was. But yeah, the context of this whole thing is very scary, and it's very vast. The scary part is that it's vast. This is why there's huge relevance of discussing how to actually do sex healthily. Because there's so much social programming in the brains of people that devalues connection with the body and makes something else more valuable than that. The whole systemic way of living as well often breaks the bond between the mind and the body, because a person must sabotage themselves a lot. Not everyone is on the path that they enjoy. Not everyone is capable of designing life that is regimented in a way that suits their biological needs primarily. So that creates consistent practice of detachment from the body. And again, that's not just that I came to my profession like this. From my own situations in life. And it's not just that I see how much relevance it has. It's insane. It's a systemic problem. Political party, human renaissance. Guilt tripping using religion especially. Exactly, yes. Any more questions, concerns, comments? Let's all breathe through the belly, please. Let's cleanse a little bit. Cleanse the mind and body from that. Get it done. Hi. So we are right now breathing in through the belly. And we are focusing on our sensations. Relaxing our body. Imagine like you are in the water right now. And the waves are gently swaying you around as you're breathing into your belly. Are you doing this thing? We had very intense topic. We need to remove this. We need to cleanse it. Everyone. Ghostsider, thank you so much. Can we clean with a puppy visit? Работник, Кузьма, ты на работу собираешься уходить сегодня или ты будешь спать? Дрыхля моя. Some deep breaths over here. This like water thing is very pleasant too also. Ты будешь видео сниматься, нет? Собака isn't cooperating. We do need to have license to have sex that you're not dummy of, but will extinct soon. No questions? Key is awareness of one's needs and keen observation, which requires one to be strong in one's power to begin with. Self-governance, self-authority, yeah. To rebel and state the priority of your needs, indeed. I look back at the live stream only to notice Madam waving the incinerator wand at us. I was doing the quick breathing exercise. Good. Good, good, good. If you want, guys, also good practice to shake it off. If something like this happens, it's just like... You know, it's like shattered glass practice. You tense everything. And then let it go. To the peak. Wonderful, wonderful thing for shaking off quickly. You flex everything, like fists, neck, pelvic floor, hips, whatever you can, whatever comes to your focus, flex everything. And then when you no longer can sustain that tension, you let your body just shake it off and relax. Let's try that. Also good practice to rub the face, to rub the ears, to rub the eyes. Massage that stuff gently or not so gently. Hands, neck, scrub it all off. Trying? Anyone trying anything? I like tensing up all the muscles in my arms, back, and abdomen while I tense up my jaw. Okay, energy is alive. Wonderful. Feeling refreshed. Good. Link between pleasure, intimacy, and finances. The finances are, if you know that you can get, if you know you can get resources, no matter through finance or through, I don't know, you can build a house, a hut, something like hut, or you can, I don't know, feel comfortable living on the beach somewhere, and then you can hunt your own food. However, you acquire resources. The ability to harvest resources is your prerequisite for feeling secure, basic security. You feel basic security, and then you are in the domain in which you can get pleasure, in which you can rest, in which you can enjoy your life fully. When you have a knowledge that you can acquire resources successfully. So that's how they're related. If we think about this much of finances, having this extension of your persona to I am rich, I'm so rich. And that is an important add on to your persona. Not just knowing that you can make resources, but having this fixation on that. That may come together with inability to be intimate with people. This may come in a complex of being drawn to transactional relationships. So that's something, that's some other facet of that. Sorry, I'm yawning. Let me shake it off. I guess I triggered my parasympathetic state, and now I am very relaxed and yawning. So, being wealthy, however, at an expense of a lot of vital forces, will be a hindrance on pleasure and intimacy. If a person knows they can make resources, but they have to achieve and hyperachieve to feel good, sorry, it can take toll on their ability to be intimate, to experience pleasure. Because pleasure is not a singular skill somewhere in one domain of life. Pleasure skill is the skill that spans across all areas of life. If the person largely, most of their 90% of their awake time, they are spending, suffering, pressurizing themselves, and getting this super hard carved reward, this is when they're not exercising the pleasure skill. So when they go to the bedroom, they will be rather treating intimacy as just dumping tension. They're not going to be in the moment experiencing pleasure. They will be dumping tension, which will be the super resource oriented work. This pattern will be translating. So if a person is achiever, hyperachiever, works for money a lot, they go to bed, they do the same thing for orgasm. And draw like primitive cavemen. Well, and by myself, of course. Otherwise, it would appear unhinged and draw concern. Chad, okay. Good practice. Always unhinged and draws concern. So that's the connection. And then also another thing that we've discussed, if there is some disparity between partners, when there is power balance shifted towards one of the persons in the couple based on their financial standing, then there is a hazard of some transaction, and there is a hazard of one person being a subject, one person being an object. So, and then also vast difference in lifestyle also play a role in an ability to being truly intimate. Because also there are scenarios in which some people find not like a relationship when people move in, when people like go live together, build some life together, but when they're just dating, for example, you understand the depth of my soul type of thing. Older men love to do this with younger girls. They go and they like create this fantasy world, this little box of fantasy world with that girl, and they feel like, wow, I'm entering some wonderland there. And they may be wealthy, they may be, I don't know, trying to find the meaning of life in that fantasy world and this wonderland, and experiencing some facet of their life. But that's also a symptom of that the person is not at ease, they're not fully living embodied in themselves, because if they seek connection only on the basis of some little tiny segment of their life, and they're unable to connect that to the rest of their life, this means that they are devoid of integrity. This means that they live in the conflict. Oh, Hippocrates base. Thank you so much for your sudden gift. Oh, where were you the entire stream today? Hippocrates. I thought you didn't come. But you were just sitting here quietly? Hippocrates, did you just come? Or were you here all the entire time? I missed you. Ah, got it. That's confusing. All because I don't like to make assumptions. Krom is back again. I thought you knew that was me. I was suspecting, but was my assumption. So, plus also the style. Actually, I don't know. I didn't compute. I have the stereotype of perception. Uh, I derived from your email the suspicion of that. But then I was like, I'm not gonna make assumptions because it's a popular genre. I guess Hippocrates is improving our attendance like this. Yeah, I thought that you knew from the email. Automatically assumed already before that you knew. Again, I don't make assumptions like that. The same way I was not. I was treating your voice prank with the same level of purity because I was like, well, this is something we're working with, and so I let you to come forward with how you want to be perceived primarily without me making assumptions. So that's how I perceive things and how I treat them, okay? Noticed you did the arrow thing earlier. Missing. No, you're forgiven. Uh, yeah, arrow thing. Oh, thank you so much, Киюшка, for цветочки. Did we do the review? Where are we? Who are we at this point? So review, let's do the review. Well, for extravaganza, I will be doing the review. Okay. Who are we? Yes. The two of you. No, we didn't do the review. Kiva. What were we doing all this time? You know, I actually took a wonderful, delightful nap before the stream. So good. But I guess I'm a little bit, I don't know, lost in time right now and in your identities, guys. Starting to get sad, Kiwa. No. Uh, like you, yeah. Actually, Hippocrates. I'll call you Hippocrates. I one of the things I struggle with to manage several accounts on many platforms. So to me, it's a super skill to be having multiple accounts and being active on them. This to me is some skill that I like. How do you do this and why would you do this? I was thinking we were not going to do the review. No, we are going to do the review. So we were talking today on how to apply our focusing, attention, skills that we develop in Tantra. How will that translate into Tantric sex? And how later we also concluded and summarized how that can translate to other areas of life. How reframing our relationships with intimacy can change the way we live in general, the way we are in relationships with the world, with ourselves, with our partner, and what outcomes it will have. And today's illustration was quite similar. Now I did use to our goal setting work. Remember, we had a video on goal setting in which we had this peak there and then, peak achievement, peak impression, peak reward that we need to work towards. And how it was important to prepare ourselves for the goal and everything to come after we achieve the goal. This kind of has the similar notion. Instead of relying on some singularity of stimulation that's supposed to bring us arousal, that's supposed to integrate us very swiftly, very intensively with the world of sexuality, with the eroticism, with healthy, intimate process. Instead of relying on this super highly pressured event, in Tantra we apply the principle of A, building a controllable domain of pleasure, dedicated domain of pleasure, focusing on pleasure, and at the same time developing the skill of focusing and defocusing, creating the diffuse fluid system of stimuli, of arousing stimuli. When we develop a whole erotic context, long-lived erotic context, when we develop a skill of our mind and our body together to be able to switch in and out of this erotic concept, to change its intensity such that instead of this highly pressured peak, that, oh, I have 30 seconds to get myself prepared for some intercourse. And then, of course, it fails, and we load up programs that it's painful, guilty, weird, a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility. Instead of this system, we create a system of comfortable, long-lived, diffuse, erotic context that we have in our head, we nurture it in our head. The training of that is developed by sitting for 5 minutes with some fantasy, sitting for 10 minutes with some fantasy, and twice a day sitting with fantasy, how it reflects on our body, thinking, contemplating intimacy, thinking of how pleasurable it is, letting it be, letting it exist in our world, in our life. We are training this domain to exist through also the concept that I'm doing it for pleasure. I'm doing it for my enjoyment, for enjoyment of my body. I make it safe. I turn back to my body, and I'm doing it for my body, for myself, for my pleasure. I'm declaring that. So this is happening, the construction of this domain of eroticism, of sexuality, happens on the basis of my new law. I'm doing it for pleasure. I'm doing it for enjoyment, for joy, for play. All of those good words, all of those good processes, cheerful, enlightened, beautiful, exciting, light, fun, pleasant. These are at the foundation of this domain. And we train it, and we train to switch, focus, defocus, focusing on, for example, seeding this sensation into the body, hearing what's happening in my body right now. Then I can diffuse. I can just fly back to that domain. Then I can focus on my body again and see these sensations, see those experiences in my body again. Then go back and diffuse again and switch back. So we do these exercises to completely reframe what intimacy is for us. Because intimacy oftentimes loses its attractiveness, even though it's a source of one of the greatest pleasures the body is capable of. Somehow it becomes not attractive. So we're returning back to, we're changing the priority. We're changing the idea of that. And we are introducing the tools to make it happen in practice by this diffusion. So instead of relying on this like super quick, short-lived peak that is also eventually tied with a lot of unpleasant things, that's supposed to bring us this immediate arousal that puts a lot of pressure and stress on our body. Instead, we're exercising this diffusion. We're bringing the erotic context in our life by contemplating, for example, images, by nurturing fantasy, by coming up with scenarios, with actually hearing our fantasy, some imaginary stories that cause us to get connected with our sexuality, with our eroticism. We are aestheticizing our life, perhaps, or bringing some elements of play into our life that are related to this erotic domain. We're focusing on that. We're effectively meditating. When we're building this domain, we're meditating on some erotic fantasies that come to our mind. And we allow ourselves to exercise more and more different scenarios. We're inventing those scenes. We're allowing our brain to come up with different exciting things. As some people were asking, Black and Orange adult movie website is not our ally here. We want to specifically tap into the flexibility of our mind, of our imagination. We want to allow ourselves to be self-sufficient, to develop a sustainable system of excitement. Then, beyond this diffusion of the context, now we talked also about the role of the partner. It's very important to invite partner into this work only when it is a trusting, kind, well-wishing relationship. And when it happens such, we can agree with our partner that please be my ally. I want to rebuild our sexual life on the basis of pleasure, play, enjoyment for my body, where I hear and prioritize my body and my body's sensations. We agree with the partner that any pain, discomfort, numbness, irritation are the signs of only one thing, that we're stopping and changing ways, or we're taking a break. We're also diffusing not only the process of arousal by carrying it with us for extended periods of times, by having it live, by assigning it a domain in our brain, by making our brain produce energy to fuel that part of life again. We're also diffusing the concept of sex. We're not putting pressure on this peak, on this scenario of this like rapid arousal, rapid frictions, and then rapid orgasm. And if one of these milestones are not hit in the proper time frame, then it is a failure. No, we are relaxing our idea of it. And we are always seeking pleasure. We are always seeking the best for ourselves in that experience. And we are making our partner an ally. There's no performance. It's total vulnerability. That's why it's so important to be in a trusting relationship. And we are introducing, very carefully introducing our partner in this process. Then, what else were we discussing? We were discussing the whole premise for that also with transactional relationship, with detachment from the body, when intimacy evolves into having one partner being active and doing thing and the other partner just being as if just present, watching it from the outside, how her body is getting like used for some masturbation, I guess. This was a very hardcore topic because this is a crisis again that indicates that a person values their body, connection with their body, needs of their body far less than some concept that exists outside of themselves, something in relationships, some resource exchange, and whatnot. And this is why the foundation of this domain is priority for pleasure for my body, safety, security, comfort, love, respect. We return to our body primarily, and we are doing everything following the cues for where the pleasure is found in the body. Then, there was something else we're discussing, something very important on this exact topic. Yeah, something we were discussing also was that the difference between fantasy and real life. Why it is also a useful skill. Because when there is a lot of pressure, when there is a lot of urge, when there is a lot of rush, when there is a lot of external force imposed on intimacy, on sex, this is when we can have this performative stress and also inability to tolerate the sudden nature of reality. Some noise knocks you out of intimacy, or you lose your attention span is low because it's associated with a lot of pressure. You lose arousal in the middle of the process. You lose interest in sex in the middle of the process because something snaps you out, because your thoughts just drift somewhere, because you remember something stressful. This is why this training of those ups and downs comes in handy. How to go back into this domain. We need to learn very well how to enter it, how to induce this feeling again. So we're not only practicing the existence, but we also practice switching. Focus, defocus. Where is the door to it? How can I enter it? And we practice ease with it. And then we also discussed the overwhelming effects of the makeover of relationships with intimacy on overall life. How with your partner you are going to discover the domain where you both are priority, when you both can talk about your desires, when you both can infuse your life and each other's life with a lot of play and energy. How suddenly there's a ton of inspiration because through this work you teach your brain that you listen to yourself. Because when you're in this situation, when you're just renting your body out to your partner, you train your brain that you don't listen to yourself, that you don't belong to yourself, you don't exist. And that debilitates you. That prevents you from being able to do anything in life. Because why? When you approach it from a different perspective, like we discussed, you are going to be embracing your authentic desires. You're going to be listening to what you're hearing and doing what you want With your partner, you suddenly will realize that it's totally unnecessary to have bloody bucket where you sacrifice half of you and sitting waiting for reward. You can both in a very fun, very cheerful, playful way. You can create a very beautiful reality. You can laugh with each other. You can create the world in which you two and in your most authentic self are a priority, and the main characters, the main active forces that are doing something incredibly beautiful. And in the other areas of life, of course, you will connect with your leadership. This is this unexpected effect of connecting with your sexuality on terms of pleasure, joy, and on terms of your body. For like teaching your body this pleasure. When you show yourself your ability, willingness, and develop a skill of prioritizing, nurturing, maintaining, and retaining pleasure. That's what we're achieving here. And when you're doing this, this is the epitome of leadership approach. This is the foundation for leadership. Pure desire, ability to achieve it, and not settling for less. Another thing I didn't mention is that you stop settling. You stop settling for little. You learn that you are yourself are capable of harvesting your pleasure. You know how to do it. And you know your priorities. So this is a very wonderful makeover. Seemingly tantric sex, some like entertainment for bored people. It's not entertainment for bored people. It's the existential makeover that revolutionizes every area of your life. And here we didn't talk about the full spectrum of tantric sex, where we can have different ways of stimulation, different intensity, different types of working of focus, defocus necessarily. We mentioned that in the beginning, how to work with the body. But we haven't talked about it in a more like systemic way, because there are things that sound like some weird tricks for pleasure harvesting, but that is to further deepen this connectedness. We first solve a problem, then we have tools to further connect all parts of our system, all our sensors in one synergistic puzzle. This is the final gate of Tantra, where we are not only exiting the dysfunction and bringing it to function, but when we are expanding it and becoming this multi-tool for pleasure in our entirety of our body, entirety of our mind. But first, we need to talk about the fundamentals, because indeed, the crisis of female sexuality is super prominent. It's an incredibly crazy, incredibly overwhelming issue in the world. So, let's work on that. Okay. Oh my god, we have a whole garden going on. So beautiful. Thank you so much, guys, for our time engaged. Is this about baking a cake? Yes, Ben. Thank you, guys. Whoops, that was one for me. Wrong garden. Paxton Bear, yes, I'm still here. I love what you've done here, guys. Oh, kiwis with mushrooms. Oh, so pretty, guys. Thank you so much. NLP, love this session. Very on point and clear and directive. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know, have you attended any other live streams, NLP? Or is it your first time with me? I was listening to you again at multitask. Mushrooms. First live. Okay, so then I'll see you more, I guess, in LP. If you have any questions, if you have any topics proposed, feel free to suggest. If you have some prominent issue that bugs you, something that you would like broken down. And I'll see you in next live streams. We stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, typically 5 p.m. New York time. Today I was a little bit late, but around that time. First live, so I got one row of flowers. Thank you so much. Oh, so beautiful. When you scroll, by the way, when you scroll, oh, it's so beautiful. So bright. And also, Nopi, if you feel like attending the next workshop, please email me here. The garden is blooming. Yes, it is so beautiful. INFJ, by the way, Hippocrates INFJ. I also, yeah, I was like, it must be you because the people count at the workshop was not adequate. So yeah, I thought it was you, but I was not making again any assumptions. So there were several hints. So I'm not totally naive in that sense. Will do, thank you. I watched some of your YouTube videos, but live hit well. Good. Wonderful. One hippo is great, but two hippos better. Yeah, indeed. I said I would make a tongue twist, that I would change. Chad. So I changed back into hippo. Oh my god, Kiva, just remind me of coconut water. I would drink that pink one right now. Oh my god. Because NFJ was causing tongue slur. Yeah. It's hard. So yeah, pink coconut water. Let me sit with that idea right now. Cold pink coconut water. I just automatically took it for granted. Everyone knew. Sorry. Coconut water is the best, yes. Oh no, craving. When it's cold, it's so ideal. Oh, I wonder if I can find pink one here. My band's first album just got over 100 million views. Leslie, congratulations on that. Congratulations on that. Very happy. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's wonderful. NLP, sa'yo. Have some epic people in our community. Coconut water is better than sports drinks. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Have sparkling water in my fridge and lemon, but I already brushed my teeth. I don't wanna do anything acidic. But I crave it. Oh, Hippocrates. Reincarnated. Never get tired of plain tea. Also fact. By the way, I had this such a memory blast. In Russia, we used to have teas that are fruity teas, but they were with currant flavor. Oh my god! And I found it here, and I've been going nuts. It's so delicious. I know that it's with synthetic aroma, but I caved in once every several days. I drank that thing. So good. It has some sour leaves in it, I think black tea, something sour, and this currant berry. So that's my new thing lately. I like Earl Grey in the morning. Mm-hmm. Also good. Any, by the way, thoughts? What are we discussing tomorrow? You know, I said yesterday about the energy vampires, but then today I had inspiration to talk about something else, and this topic came to my mind, and it was like in the morning I was writing already. I was writing on the board, and I was thinking about this thing. Just felt like talking about that. Had huge inspiration. Skullcap tea and the sleepy time tea with the bear in the box are my favorite. Mm-hmm, they're also delicious. My lab saying reminds me of the old days. So energy vampirism, I don't want to even go into that territory. Maybe there's not. We can talk. You know, there are topics that you can talk this much on, or this much on. And I feel like energy vampirism, if we go into this whole foundation of that, or why a person is susceptible to that, then we'll have a lot of the talk, the same talk that we've been having every single live stream when we're talking about some destructive, poor systems. And then we will say something like in Tantra, we're practicing this energy harvesting, energy grab. We can actually use energy vampire. We can do energy vampirism of energy vampires and fuel our ideas with that. So that's what I would say about energy vampirism. But there will be like this much of talk on all the prerequisites to the topic. Energy vampires, please. My boss is one. Okay. We have +1 on this thing. Because energy vampires, you know, it's also toxic people, how to feel confident. It's all like parts of, I think, of the same conversation, just under different angles. Case study, yes, would be really wonderful, Chad, if you are willing to bring some um, bullet points about your situation. Such that we go on the subject as opposed to going like this on this general thing that some people do this, some people do that, and some people do this, and we should be doing this and feeling that. And if this, then if this, then that. So, case studies will be very, very welcome from time to time. We still have topics that are of general value that we haven't covered on tantric intimacy, but a lot of the topics we already discussed, like this and like this and like this, on so many different angles, that case studies would be really valuable. I got a lot about that topic. Wonderful, Chad. So we'll see you then. Tomorrow we'll do energy vampirism. Let's erase this one. This topic, by the way, how did you feel about it? What's your impression of today's work? Let me know. Was it productive? Was it inspiring? Was it well put together? Understandable? What's your impression? Or was something not uncovered, something unclear, something not consistent? Okay. Very thorough. Dwayne Light, thank you. Red is your color, thank you. Got a lot of that. What's from your soul? Very consistent. Okay, consistency was good. Thank you. It was interesting, but I didn't have a lot to add. That would be non sequiturs are talking about my ex. Very honorable of you, Chad, to not talk about your ex. Um, good. So good impressions overall. Nice. Because actually, I realized that I haven't been requesting much feedback, and that puts us in the assumption field of me assuming that everything was understood. That's interesting, but okay, so this is we read, and so, let's part ways. I'll keep this noted for the next topic. Where did Tawadapa go? He's sleeping, I don't know. I think it's late for him as well. So, let's part right now. Thank you everyone for coming today. It was very interesting to. It's a sequence, meaning one of comments or things that throw off the flow of the chat. Well, don't worry about that. Also, by the way, Chad, you can always send me an email with whatever stories or comments. Sometimes people have like this much to say on the topic, and they just send email. Remember, we had this practice. So if you have anything to add, if you have anything to comment, you can always send me an email and tell me in the chat. I sent you an email, and we'll read the story. That departed. Kivashka, thank you so much, Kiva. Настя, дорогая, прихожу на эфир не просто чтобы конспектировать и слушать ваши золотые слова, а чтобы искренне побыть рядом с вашим теплом. Ваш канал просто потрясающий. Благодарю. All the best. Thank you so much, Kiva. Thank you so much. So warm. Let me sit with it too. Thank you, Kiva. It's been a while with words, so I decided why not. Now, I was interrogated by Tantra police and fell asleep while defocusing. Yeah, I'm definitely making a merch like this. Let's put it in the notes. Tantra police. Imagine you're like, Tantra police. That would be a power move. Robert joined. Thank you for your compliment. I love hearing you speak Russian. Always enjoy Kiva's final super chat. Alright, so we've got task force. Oh my god. See you at some earlier hour. Oh, okay. Thank you, Timothy. I'm glad you enjoyed the super chats. Everybody does. Right, take care, everybody. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much. And let's meet up tomorrow.